Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Untapped Podcast. My name is Jacob Gabel.
And my name is Jacob Wurtz, guys. Welcome to episode 170 of the Untapped Podcast. Nice round number there. That's awesome.
Yep.
If this is your first time joining us, first of all, thank you. We are thrilled to have you here with us. We actually have 5 main formats of our show. So first, we have Forging Fortitude episodes. Now, in these episodes, we cover the mental side of our brand. In these ones, we go over our anecdotal experiences with things like mindset and mentality. We then pass on tips and advice to you guys to then apply to your own lives. Next, we have Physical Vitality episodes. Now, in these ones, we cover the physical side of our brand. Now, in these ones, we really get to showcase our expertise because you have 2 certified personal trainers here. Now, in these ones, we cover everything that we offer through our fully custom Untapped training app. So if you have any questions or curiosities about what we offer, what we can do for you, please reach out. We are very reachable guys, and we are more than willing and able to help you get the results that you want. Now, outside of that, we also cover everything to do with the gym, workouts, nutrition, supplements, diet. We will even talk about mental toughness programs like 75 Hard. We do a lot of comparison episodes, which was last week's episode 169, where we talked about kettlebell training versus traditional training. So we do a lot of those types of episodes with the physical vitalities, and those are always fun. And you kind of get our insight into some of these popular arguments, quote unquote, that you will see on social media. And on that note, we will also take trending articles or topics within the fitness industry and give our thoughts and opinions on those. Guys, we cannot stress this enough, but these physical vitality episodes are full of free game. So make sure you pay attention.
Awesome. Physical Vitality introduction. Nice work. Guys, our third format is our breaking news format. That is what we have for you today. It is a current event-based format. We go over current events, current articles going on in today's world. We might literally do a current event going on the moment we're recording, like we are today, or it might be just general breaking news, current event topics in general too. Keep in mind, a lot of the content you see around current events in the world is very doom and gloom, very depressing for the most part. We're here to provide the solution-based side of those episodes as well. Now, on to our fourth format. That is our Knights Table format. It is a masculinity-based format. We touch on things like toxic masculinity, if it's real, what it is, fatherhood, the impact it's had on all 3 of our lives in here, and male-based topics in general and how important men are to the future of the United States, but also the world. Now, keep in mind, I'm 27, Wurtz is 26. Our producer, Mitch, is 25. Because of that reason, we're not coming to you from some all put together place as a man. The only perfect man to walk this earth is Jesus Christ. Now, on to our 5th format. That's our guest format. We sit down with entrepreneurs, fitness professionals, athletes, doctors, somebody with a great story, or anybody who brings you value. We're going to learn a lot from these episodes. You, in turn, also are going to learn a lot from these episodes. Our final thing to introduce before the main content of the show is our producer and my brother, Mitchell Gabel.
Hello.
Well done.
Quick hello there.
Yep. He's like, hello, get me off the screen.
Yeah, right. Well, except he's about to get more screen time. Because if you guys, yes, and whether you like it or not.
Hello.
So, if you guys were with us last week for episode 169, you know that we introduced a brand new world-breaking, world-shattering segment.
First podcast that's ever done it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Probably zero doubt about that one, but
I mean,
yeah,
dude, we've changed the landscape
we're
of podcasting.
what I would consider pioneers. Yes,
Obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. We introduced Mitch's fact of the day.
Uh-huh.
That's what it was. Where he gets a moment here at the beginning of the episode to give us a fact of the day. So, Mitch, why don't you teach us something here?
Alaska has a longer coastline than the other 49 states combined.
Bullshit.
Interesting.
What?
Well,
that's a crazy fact. Wait, that's actually true?
Aren't 3 sides of Alaska coastline? Yeah.
No, you're right. That would be correct.
It is a peninsula.
That'd be correct.
Yeah.
Wow.
Then combined.
You're talking the West Coast, East Coast, all of it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, think about it. Mexico doesn't count as U.S. coastline.
Of course.
Sure.
So you have the Texas, you have, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana,
California.
Florida, of all the East Coast and the West Coast. Oregon, Washington. It's not like Vancouver or British Columbia is not part of the U.S. So.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought Vancouver was a U.S.
I totally thought it was. Yeah. I thought province was a state. Yeah.
What?
Just kidding.
No, oh
We're
my.
messing with you.
You
Mitchell.
do
Come
not.
On.
Oh,
Come
my
on,
gosh.
dude.
You guys need to go work in Tim Hortons. You'd fit right in.
What, does everybody have blue hair in there?
No.
Wow. So Alaska has more coastline than the other 49 combined.
Well, I mean, I guess it makes sense, though, because Alaska is what? Is it like 2.5 times the size of the next closest state total?
I believe the 4 biggest, it goes Alaska, then Texas, then California, and then Montana.
Yes.
Alaska is nearly double the size of Texas,
That's
the
crazy.
next closest state.
So that does add up a little bit more when
Sure.
when you think
And
about
because, Hawaii would be included in that, but Hawaii is obviously tiny, even though it's fully surrounded.
that. You know what is pretty funny? Mitchell could totally lie to us on these fact of the days, and
I could.
like, unless we fact check it now,
Yeah.
then we'd have no ability.
Yeah.
But I'm trusting him in this scenario.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it does make sense.
Mhm.
It's a huge state.
Alaska also, that's got to be a key trip for the boys at some point in
Dude,
time.
Alaska's sick.
For sure.
Yeah.
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 Because Montana is already cool enough as it is. Now
Right.
you triple the size of it.
Right. Yeah.
Sick.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. Alaska's big. In case you didn't
Confirmed.
know. Yeah.
Confirmed.
Yeah. And Vancouver is not a U.S. city.
Also confirmed.
All right. So, as we mentioned here for 170, we do have a breaking news episode. And this is something that is currently happening. So, we are recording this on Monday, August 11th. So, by the time you guys are hearing it, it will be a week later. So, it is possible that the situation could have changed or potentially gone away or is fully in effect by the time you are hearing this. But we found an article here from Reuters.
Or Reuters.
Whatever
they
it
pronounce
is.
it as.
Yeah. Through Apple News is where we got the article from. But it's talking about Trump's new initiative or
Essentially
enforcement, I
his
guess?
newest enforcement. Yeah. If I'm reading the article correct, it released at like either 5:10 or 6:10 our time.
Okay.
Because
Today.
UTC is what it says on there, but I've never seen that time span, which again shows that I need to step my game up a
I
little
don't know
bit
what that
knowledge
is.
wise
Mitch,
on
do
that.
you know what that is?
UTC time zone wise.
That's definitely a new one for me.
What do you mean? What it stands
It
for?
said so. This article. So obviously, I was able to pull this up before I got home, and it's August 11th, 2025, 8:10 p.m. UTC.
Universal. I mean, you could go universal coordinated time or something like that. I mean, it's just a different time zone. It's a way of making everything.
Okay, so it's a standardized time. Then.
So
yeah.
if you have,
Yes.
I mean, we deal with it all the time with us. I mean, if you have, someone who works on the West Coast and someone who works in India and someone who works in.
No, I think you're misunderstanding our question.
What?
We understand there's different time zones.
Yeah, like CST is Central Standard Time.
Exactly.
Obviously.
Exactly.
This UTC is at a certain standard time.
Yes, because a lot of companies who follow the globe or global companies will just pick one standard time to make it make sense.
Got it.
So like if you're looking at, certain security logs or something like that, it needs to be all of our logs are in UTC because it's hard to communicate to a person, hey, this log occurred at CST, but they could be in India time or something
Yeah,
like that. That
gotcha.
doesn't make any
Could be
sense. to them.
universal time code. Excuse
Something
me.
like
Wow.
that. Oh,
Sorry.
Right.
guys.
Right into the mic.
That's hilarious. What in the world? Excuse me, guys. Apologies.
Wow.
Yeah, you guys write that right in your car or in the gym listening to it. Like, you got to be shitting me right now.
These guys just burp on their
Yeah.
podcast.
But I'm imagining universal time code. Wurtz is gonna make me lose it here. I would imagine universal time code is probably something along those lines. But anyways, either 4:10 or 5:10 our time, Central Standard Time is what we're looking at here. That's when I sent it over to Wurtz. Basically, it says Trump takes over DC police, an extraordinary move, deploys National Guard in Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
They say it was, and Trump actually put out a tweet, or I guess a Truth Social or whatever his platform is, or whatever. Like, yeah, a tweet. I believe it was very recently when I sent you that tweet too, but that was as early as Friday last week. So like August 8th, if I'm doing, August 8th, that would have been. But he put it out basically saying that there is a massive crime wave occurring around the country, but he also said it was occurring in DC
Mhm.
in a much more major way lately. At least like they've had a lot more issues with not only, like gang shootings, but it's also been citizen related stuff. Like people, like random citizens getting attacked. Like there's a random woman getting carjacked, and this guy we're going to talk about later with a very interesting name tried to jump in, and he got the shit beat out of him too by these. I think it was like these 3 local scholars that were there to study some kind of high level mechanics or something like that. But
for sure, that's what they're there.
Definitely there for in DC for that. But anyways, that's what's related to this article.
Yeah.
Just to keep it short, we'll talk around the natural topics of it and just the natural occurrences of it. Now, in this episode, we will not go into Trump's other policies. It will literally just be this one.
Yeah.
That we're going to go over today.
Yeah. Well, and you're
clear.
talking specifically too in the crime spike. You're talking specifically violent crime.
Yes, correct.
And we've talked about that some in past breaking news episodes, obviously with the illegal immigration conversation, things like that. Again, not necessarily the route we're going here, but it is a problem and a big one too.
It's one a lot of officials like to shrug off as if it doesn't occur in their cities a lot of the times.
Yeah. And what was it? What year or years was it that the FBI made it optional?
It was the last couple years. It was actually the last couple years, I believe I'm doing the timeline correct here, of the Biden administration.
Yeah, where the FBI made it optional for cities to report their crime statistics.
And there was supposed rumors that this might have been going on for a lot longer than just those the Biden administration and whatnot.
Yeah.
Where basically there's unreported, so they gave the option to these cities to report their crime statistics, and a lot of the cities just didn't want to do the paperwork because it's bureaucracy, it's government, it's very inefficient.
Right.
And so they didn't want to do the paperwork, so they didn't submit a lot of these things. So it looked like crime levels were going down from what was reported, and that was actually a falsehood, what was found, and that was exposed as early as last year, I know in 2024, which is terrifying to think about because again, anybody that has gone to a city like Denver, Colorado, St. Louis, Missouri, like what we live in, pretty much any other major city area, can sit there and analyze a city. One, they all look very run down in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
Not all the areas. Again, we were talking about Minneapolis before the show, and there was a lot of wealthy areas in those cities, and that happens, the gentrification, so to speak, of it. But there's also somewhere like Denver, Colorado, which was a beautiful city about 10 years ago, and especially around COVID time, it really went downhill, and it's a very dirty, unclean city, a lot of homeless, et cetera, all this stuff that comes along with it.
Well, again, I mean, a lot of our listeners are here local. So like St. Louis is the same way.
Exactly.
St. Louis, there's been times where it's been popping down there, in a good way. It's been popping, and new restaurants going up, new buildings going up, new bars and new updates.
New developments in general.
New developments. Yeah. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. I will say, and this isn't a sports related episode or anything, but like the excitement surrounding the actual city of St. Louis does pertain a lot to the Cardinals and the success and the lack of success here in the last couple of years has certainly affected this.
And even as recently as the Blues winning the Cup in 2019.
Of course,
too.
Of course, that as well.
Added to like the fulfilling of the ballpark village thing and whatnot, of course.
100%. It added to the heartbeat of the city of St. Louis, the city itself. Now there's been upgrades to like the arch grounds and things like that to make that more attractive to go to.
Accessible, I guess.
Accessible, exciting, attractive. Yeah, all these things. And quite honestly, the arch grounds it's a great place to walk around and there's obviously the huge field, massive field underneath the arch that people are always at. And it the last couple times I've been down there, which one was as recent as 4th of July this year, it was like empty. And 4th of July is when the fair is going on downtown. There's always the big fireworks show. There used to be an air show with it, but there was people everywhere. It was a great gathering. Well, now you go down there and it's dirty, like you said. There's homeless people. I'm not going to say it's everywhere because
it's not as bad as a city like Denver.
Sure, San Diego, these places that, it's a very real problem, homelessness. DC would be included in that in the article.
San Francisco would be included in that.
The article does actually talk about DC. But you've got those, you got crime running rampant. The police are overwhelmed and understaffed, underpaid, and things like that. And so all of that contributes to essentially a dying city, you know, and we hate that. You know, we're very passionate about St. Louis and being from St. Louis.
Yeah.
And so when you have these problems not being addressed and not being reported, it is very demoralizing.
It's disheartening. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
And we don't know what's true.
Well, and I think the big surrounding topic around this Trump thing so far has been, especially since past Friday, has been this, they basically him saying he's going to do a full crackdown and all that stuff. And I want to preface this by saying something like the Arch Grounds, for example. The Arch Grounds are a good example of dedicated effort toward cleaning stuff up and what can happen when you put dedicated effort towards stuff in a city.
Yeah.
As, you know, again, as corrupt and just in general inefficient the cities are in a lot of ways, especially St. Louis. If you've, at any way, those of you in St. Louis, if you've ever dealt with the city hall and trying to do permits and other stuff like that, like I have, it is miserable. It is absolutely miserable. And a lot of that is why the cities are decaying in a lot of ways, because there's this apathetic, oh, things are fine type look, for example. And usually it's from people that are in the suburbs commenting like that, when people in the city are like, oh yeah, we live in a shithole, basically. And a lot of the comments around the Trump thing, to now transition to that, is that a lot of the comments around the Trump thing have been claiming he's authoritarian because he sent in 800 National Guard troops now to D.C. to help clean it up. When in reality, what a lot of people don't want to accept when it comes to criminal policy is we have gone so far with being lax on crime for the last 30 to 40 years, as close as 20 years, that we are now reaping the consequences of that in a lot of ways. And because that's the thing, that what people don't understand either, if you were to send in the National Guard in each city, what would happen is that they could go in there and you would give them green light to clean up the issues. They could do it probably within 2 weeks, more than likely. I would make an argument that they could do that.
Yeah.
And we would get what everybody complains about in St. Louis. No matter what political affiliation you talk to in St. Louis, they admit St. Louis is dangerous, it needs help, all this stuff. But everybody cannot stomach the idea of sending in a National Guard in this scenario. They think it's authoritarian.
Right.
Is supposedly what it is.
Or stomach what it legitimately will take.
Yep. And I don't find Law and Order to be authoritarian. I am of no belief that that's a logical standpoint at all, where violent criminals have multiple prior arrests, continue to get released within 2 or 3 years, or even less than that, or they just get released on bail or whatever it is, like Carmelo Anthony, the kid who stabbed the guy down in Frisco, Texas did. You know, it's things like that where if we were a respectable, honorable society, as any past society has been, what we would do is violent criminals, after the point of they've had 3 prior arrests and they continue to come back of violent arrest, you execute them.
Yeah.
They are not a member of society anymore.
No.
And again, everybody, likes the idea, especially Christians, of the, oh yeah, but we don't want to kill anybody and, this and that. And like they set this idea as if the Bible doesn't also speak on law and order being a very important thing in it. Not only in the Old Testament, but also in the New Testament. The Old Testament, people talk about people going Old Testament. It's a very harsh, part of the Bible. And New Testament has a little bit more of the grace aspect that Jesus brings into it, obviously. And I think a lot of the times especially Christians, do not have the stomach for what's necessary to live in a very controlled, homogenous, very united culture, so to speak, would be a good word I would probably use for it. That they don't have the stomach for that when it comes to, you look back at a society like Europe up until the point of about 1800 and 1900, they actually, the bottom 1% of their society that was the most violent and the most vile criminals they were executing them weekly, if not daily, was the reports in history about this stuff. And what happened was along the way, these European societies, they became so crime free that they then realized, a privilege aspect or whatever you want to call it. And then they got apathetic and turned the opposite way. But it was so crime free because they had taken away the bloodlines of these very violent, evil criminals that were a part of society and continue to be allowed to be a part of society. And everybody wants to justify criminality as this, it's, well, what happened with his family when he was younger? What did he run into? What happened? That doesn't give you an excuse to go shoot somebody, to go stab somebody, to go murder somebody, to go rob somebody. And none of those past experiences give you any excuse for why you are committing violent crime.
Right.
None of it.
Especially the ones that just happen for no reason.
Exactly.
Look at that situation in Cincinnati that just happened.
Yep.
Why does that need to happen?
What's so funny? There was the reasoning they gave for that was apparently the dude got the shit beat out of him, and then his wife. Apparently the dude, they were claiming he yelled the N-word. And it's like, I'm sorry. That's not a reason to literally curb stomp somebody's head along the ground. Yeah. Even if he did yell the N-word, let's just say he did, which I don't think there was any confirmation actually of that being the case. Even if he did, that's not justification.
No.
At all for beating the shit out of somebody like
right.
that. At all.
Right.
Because at some point in time, the society's not going to tolerate that type of stuff. And they're just going to start shooting people like that.
Yeah.
That's just going to happen.
Right.
And because the problem is what happens is a lot of people are not considering the fact that what happens when we are in a society like we are now, where law and order continues to fall, what happens is at some point in time, a very real authoritarian figure steps in and crushes the violence in our society in a lot of ways. And who knows if that results in something worse down the line for us too.
Right.
Instead of us handling it in the way of going in with the National Guard, doing it in a very calculated, strategic, tactical way,
right,
and handling this and putting down these violent criminals that don't need to be in our society,
right,
and then you're done. You're done with the problem.
Because if you do have that very real authoritarian command, like you mentioned, on the surface level, it sounds great.
Sure.
Okay, violent crime, it's going to be handled, this and that, they're going to be handled quickly, efficiently, and effectively. But what's on the back end of that? Which is what, the point you were making there. What's on the back end of that could be even worse.
God forbid. God forbid, who knows?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the point that we don't want to get to. And obviously, I do not believe that is Trump's goal here.
Oh God, Trump is so moderate, it's not even funny.
Right.
You don't like
at best.
Those of you that might be magically a leftist listening to the show, you need to be very clear on the fact that Trump is moderate compared to what's coming for you.
Yes.
At this point in time, if you continue down this path.
Right. And, it's always funny whenever the National Guard gets deployed in these types of situations, because, this will be at least the second time Trump has deployed the National Guard, because he did with the LA riots. Was that earlier this year? Yeah, earlier this year.
Correct.
And, it was a big uproar that he's bringing in the National Guard and all this. And it's like, what people don't understand is the majority of the time the National Guard gets called in these types of situations, whether it was LA, whether it was this DC, or, January 6th or whatever, most of the time it's just a presence. Like, they're just there. It's not like you're bringing in the National Guard, which is technically the U.S. Army. They're not just bringing them in to just start shooting a bunch of people. Now, they will have the green light to do that. I believe the article actually did say that. Not to just go shoot people. That's not what I mean. But to handle the problem by the means necessary.
Not to mention if the police get overwhelmed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's what it is. It's the National Guard is aiding in the police force that is already there. It's not like, hey, DC police, like, we don't need you anymore. We got these guys over here. Like, that's not what's happening. It's an aid. It's additional help. And again, most of the time it's a presence, because if you got these dudes, these army guys in their army vehicles with their army kits and weapons and things like that, you're probably not going to mess with them. Probably not. If you do, it's not going to end well for you. To whereas a lot of the police forces don't have tools like that, and they certainly don't have the numbers for that. So when you got National Guard, patrolling the city, I'll say, with quotations very much intended there, because again, this isn't a martial law situation where they're riding up and down the streets,
and you have a curfew or something like that.
Curfew, like they did in Minnesota during COVID,
which,
by the way,
correct.
That
and again, like, how many pictures you see in DC when Biden deployed the National Guard there too, and they were wearing all their masks and whatnot.
Exactly.
There was a meme picture going around like that. It's like, you see what Trump's doing in DC, and it was a picture from 2021 when Biden had deployed all these same guys with the mask on and all that stuff.
It's also, and again, not the point of this conversation, but it's like all the deportations and all that happening. It's like, you do know Obama was deporting people too, right? Like, you do know that happened.
Now, granted, he allowed things like DACA and whatnot. So, like,
For sure.
All things considered, like I will admit that Trump has been better about that, partially because there's also been a lot of self-deportations during his administration now too.
Sure.
So,
but these people try to sit there and pretend that other presidents have not done the exact same thing. You know what I mean? Which is always just hilarious to me.
Yep. That's true.
All in all, to kind of round this out, or at least start to round it out,
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's a good thing. I think it's positive. If the DC police force is that overrun, then they need help.
Yep.
And honestly, too, I just thought about this. You would think that, number one, the people, the citizens that live in DC, which is not a ton, but there is a population there of just normal citizens. It's not just politicians. But you would think the citizens and you would think all the politicians would want to feel safe in the city they live and or work in.
They don't think of it that way, though.
No, they don't.
Yeah,
they don't. Not at all.
And again, like 80% plus of that city is leftist, essentially.
Right.
DC is.
Right.
So like they're too caught up in their identity politics and sticking with their side of things to admit that crime needs to be handled in a lot of ways. Yeah. So that's what it comes down to is like, and again, to make it very clear, as the title says, Trump is not an authoritarian. He's far from what you would expect as an authoritarian figure.
Right.
That is probably arising in our generation of young men.
Yeah. At
this point in time, currently,
he'd be a really bad authoritarian.
Yes, he'd be a dog shit authoritarian. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was also, to round my point out there was also, the classic tweets going out, making fun of the, basically making fun of the crowd, and like saying like, oh, look, Trump's an authoritarian. Like you're so free speech, free country thing. Like that's not what you're looking for. Right. And one of them was all the Second Amendment people are really quiet right now about this authoritarian action. Like I thought this was considered tyranny and something. And it's like, you don't understand. Like Second Amendment people will happily, if you send us all in, we'd happily go in and shoot all the criminals.
Yeah.
That's like, believe in the Second Amendment doesn't mean you believe in allowing criminals to run wild in cities.
Correct.
I don't know where in the world that thought process comes from.
Right.
But again, like most of these people on especially X that you see that are leftists are room temperature IQ most of the time.
Yes.
Like we're working with a 73 IQ and that's about it.
Yeah.
And they say these things and it's like, you don't understand. Like the Second Amendment is for law-abiding citizens.
Well, and
it's
there's
for law-abiding members of society.
Right.
It's not for these scumbags that need to be put down like dogs in our cities.
And there's just not critical thinking that comes with that.
No, of course not.
And it's as simple as that.
Yep.
It's as simple as that.
Pretty simple article to dissect a little bit.
It is. And I'll put the link to this article that we're referring to in the description. So it'll be, at least on the audios, we should be able to get it on YouTube as well. There's a chance that you might have to like highlight it and copy it. It may not be a hyperlink, but anyway, it will be in the descriptions on the audio platforms and on YouTube as well. Now, at the end of all of our non-guest episodes, Money Mitch will ask us a Q&A question that's submitted by you guys, the listeners or the viewers. Now, we have a few different ways that we would like you guys to submit these to us. Number one, you can DM them to us on Instagram at untapped.llp. You can also DM them to Gabel or myself individually. You can also text them to us if you have our numbers. Next, you can email them to us. Our email is extricationfitness@gmail.com. A little hard to say, a little hard to type. We get it. So there's an email button in our Instagram and Facebook bios. And finally, you can leave your questions in the comments on any of our social media posts. We are very active on Instagram, X, TikTok, and YouTube, including YouTube Shorts. So you can leave your questions in the comments on any of those platforms. And all of these questions get sent to Money Mitch. Now, they can be about anything. They could be about a past episode, a future episode, or a future topic you would like us to not only answer the question, but maybe do a full-length podcast on it. They can be especially anything about health and fitness related, supplement related, things like that. We love those types of questions. We love helping you guys on those fronts. They can also be funny. We love the funny questions. Gets us a good laugh at the end of our episodes for sure. And but the point is, they can be about anything. Sorry, we had a little distraction there with the cat
with the animal in the building,
who's going to make an appearance here in just a second. But again, all these get sent to Money Mitch. We do not see them beforehand. He will then pick one out to pertain to the episode, or again, it could be something random. So it doesn't really matter. As long as it's a good question, it will be asked. It will be answered to the best of our ability. Now, with all that being said, Money Mitch and Moke,
Set up with them, Mitch.
Do your thing.
Do you guys think organized crime is more prevalent on the East Coast or the West Coast?
It's a fascinating question.
It is.
I mean, are we talking like organized crime? Would you consider the gang violence in downtown St. Louis organized crime?
I mean, yeah,
Okay.
it's a group of people.
I always think of. It's funny.
I think of like mobs.
I always think of mafia stuff
yeah,
too.
yeah.
100%.
Like the old school Al Capone days in Chicago.
Wish they were still here because there was a certain aspect that was good about the mafia actually being in the East Coast, but that's a whole nother piece of history that wasn't really spoken on.
Do we think it's more prevalent on the East or West Coast? So this is strictly like an opinion, basically.
Yeah, it's an interesting because I definitely don't have any facts I could say.
I was going to say
compared. Yeah,
there's no concrete here, but it sure seems like at least on the gang front that is talked about more on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm. Well, and why would that be a relation to gang stuff?
Well,
too?
they're typically like Spanish.
Gangs, I would say cartel is right on the border there on the West Coast.
Right.
So it's easier access for the cartel to have gang activity there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know how much like old school organized crime, that we were kind of mentioning there again, like the Godfather type stuff.
There was like somebody that was hypothesizing that there maybe is like a total of 300 mafia members, Italian mafia left in the world.
Yeah.
Something like that. I don't even know if they're operating. I'm pretty sure that's just like the guesstimate.
Right.
That's it.
And that was kind of my point. I don't know how much of that still exists today. Maybe that's the point. That we don't know that. But it sure seemed like that really ran rampant through the East Coast, but also through places like Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess my answer would be West Coast because that's at least what we seem to hear more of.
As we know, though, too, the cartel still has embedded members in as far up to the East Coast too,
for sure, and also on the East Coast, in New York, it's very
Bloods, Crips, that type of stuff too.
Right, right. In New York, it's very territorial, just kind of in general. What do they call them? The boroughs, the 5 boroughs in New York, with like the Bronx and the Queens and all that stuff. It's very territorial, not even necessarily just crime related, just in general. It's very, very much that way. But you do hear of like Dominican gangs and stuff being in New York and Cuban gangs as well, I believe. MS-13 seems to always be in the headlines, like in New York and whatnot. It's typically New York. It feels like on the East Coast, you don't really hear much stuff like in Boston or things like that very often.
Yeah, apparently Boston does have like a certain amount of crime, but
no doubt,
according to most people, including Mitchell, that have been there recently, apparently it's a very well kept city for the most part.
Yeah. So, and then on the West Coast, you typically hear about LA.
Yep.
So I'm going to stick with West Coast.
I would lean toward your side with that as well, with the West Coast, and I would lean toward that side because of the access to like things like Tijuana and the border right there, going up through California and up the West Coast that way, where it'd be much easier for them to make their access to it. Now you could also count Texas as the West Coast there. Let's just say in this hypothetical through the Rio Grande, like the trucking routes and whatnot, they've had shipping drugs in and stuff like that. That's also. That then leads into the middle of the country, but it starts from the West Coast in a lot of ways too. And, again, most of those, the sightings are horrific crimes committed where they're like beheading children, like the MS-13 gangs and, raping women and stuff like that. Those are usually a lot of times West Coast. Now you see stuff like that on the East Coast because they've obviously, like I said, embedded up there in the East Coast too. But I truly think like we would have to do such, if we were to like solve the issue of organized crime on either of the coast, it would be such an organized effort that nobody has the stomach for that right now. I mean, it would look ugly. Yeah. I mean, you'd be kicking down doors. You would be going in and like, are you housing an MS-13 member basically? And you'd have to do that. And I mean, realistically, like I'm under the opinion that, our biggest threat comes from the cartels actually on the Mexican border around that area compared to any other threat we deal with in the Middle East and whatnot. I'm much less worried about ISIS than I am about the cartels being right on our border and having access to all that stuff.
Well, because it's domestic, and that's part of the military's job is defending all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Yes.
Like that includes in our borders. And I'm not saying we need to have our stealth bombers flying around LA dropping bombs. Like that's not what I'm saying. And God forbid that ever happens,
Yeah, like I mean, you were talking about just leveling a city. That's just not a
Yeah, like
know,
we don't need that.
yeah
Yeah.
no.
So anyway, I think the consensus here is the West Coast.
Yeah.
Mitch, would you agree with that? Giving us the old head nod there.
Classic.
Yeah, he ran out of words, I guess,
Classic.
to use for the episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's on like the 200 word limit
Oh yeah.
for text and whatnot.
right,
Yeah,
right,
that was always
right.
classic.
Yeah. Or how on YouTube Shorts there's still a 100 character limit when you're posting.
Yeah, that makes about 0 sense.
Zero.
Whenever I try to post for Untapped on our
Yeah.
stuff, it's the most frustrating thing.
Yeah,
ever.
no.
I'm like,
It's
thanks YouTube Shorts.
very
Really,
annoying.
really appreciate you guys having a good system for
Right.
your short system here.
Right.
That's awesome.
Right. All right, guys, that is episode 170. As always, please continue to share the show. It's very easy for you. It's very free as well.
Rate it.
And rate the show on the audio platforms. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, all that good stuff. Again, this is all free stuff. We're not asking you to buy our training. Again, if you do have questions about our training, please reach out. And thought there was one more point, but maybe there's not. So, guys, until next time, peace and love.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.